I was waiting at the traffic light with my window down when it happened. A desperate cat leapt up to my car, a tiny kitten clutched in her mouth. Before I could react, she dropped the kitten onto my lap and darted away into the bushes. My family sat frozen in disbelief. We rushed the kitten to the vet, hoping to help, but what the vet uncovered left us absolutely horrified. Walking into the vet's office, I glanced at my husband, his face a mix of worry and amazement. "What if something's really wrong?" he whispered, nodding toward the kitten wrapped snugly in a towel. The receptionist looked up, eyebrows raised. "How can I help?" she asked. We explained quickly, and soon enough we were ushered into the examination room, where the vet took the kitten from my arms with a warm smile. Dr. Lee, the vet, gently placed the kitten on the table. "Let's take a look, shall we?" he said, adjusting his glasses. My daughter stood at my side, wide-eyed. "Will it be okay?" she whispered. Dr. Lee hummed thoughtfully, ever so careful with his prodding. "This little one's got a story to tell. I can feel it." His comment didn't do much to ease our minds, but we watched quietly, hoping for good news. The room was silent, except for the soft rustling of the vet's gloves. My son fidgeted next to me. "Can we keep it?" he asked, breaking the tension. I exchanged a quick, uncertain glance with my husband. "Let's see what Dr. Lee says first," I replied, trying to keep things calm. We waited, watching as the vet checked the kitten's fur, ears, and tiny paws with great care. Dr. Lee's brow furrowed as he continued his examination. "There are some unusual marks here," he commented, pointing to the kitten's back. My husband leaned in for a closer look. "What do you think, doctor? Is it something serious?" he inquired with genuine concern. Dr. Lee didn't answer right away, focusing on the kitten, his face thoughtful and intense, leaving us on tenterhooks for whatever news lay ahead. Dr. Lee finally turned to face us, removing his gloves with a sigh. "I'll need to run a few tests," he stated calmly. My daughter, biting her lip, finally piped up. "Will it be long?" He gave a reassuring nod. "A day or two, tops. It's crucial we find out what's going on with these marks." We nodded, thankful for his thoroughness, but the waiting would be a challenge for us all. Leaving the vet's office, I tried to keep the mood light for the kids. "Maybe the kitten's a little superhero," I suggested playfully. My husband chuckled, rubbing my son's head. "The bravest kitten of them all, right?" he added. The kids smiled, and I felt a bit relieved. We might not know what surprise lay ahead, but we'd face it together, whatever the outcome might be. Back home, we made a cozy spot for the kitten in the laundry room. My daughter carefully set down a dish of milk. "Do you think its mom will come back?" she asked, hopeful eyes on the small bundle. "I don't know, sweetie," I replied gently. "All we can do is take care of it here." I watched as the kids took turns peeking in, already forming a bond with our little guest. With the kitten settled, we waited anxiously for Dr. Lee's call. Every time the phone rang, I felt a jolt, hoping for news. My husband kept busy, distracting the kids with games and stories. "Maybe the kitten has a secret identity," he joked, making my daughter giggle. As the evening stretched on, we found comfort in laughter and the kitten's soft, steady breathing in the next room. That night, after the kids were asleep, my husband and I sat on the porch, talking quietly. "What if the vet's news is bad?" he asked, voicing the fear we'd both been holding back. I shrugged, thinking hard. "Then we'll do whatever we can," I said firmly. "We might not have expected this, but we're all in now." We sat in companionable silence, united in uncertainty, yet hopeful for what tomorrow might bring. The next morning, over breakfast, the kids brought up naming the kitten. "We should call it Hero," my son suggested, eyes bright with excitement. "What about Whiskers?" My daughter chimed in, clearly warmed up to the idea. My husband and I exchanged amused looks. "One thing's for sure," he said, laughing. "This kitten's already got us wrapped around its tiny paw." We left the discussion open, smiling at their enthusiasm. Later in the day, the phone rang, and I rushed to answer it. It was Dr. Lee with his calm voice. "I have some preliminary results," he began. My heart thumped loudly. The marks are unusual, but not necessarily harmful, he reassured. Relief washed over me like a wave. That's great to hear, I replied, signaling my husband to join the call as the tension eased a little. Dr. Lee continued, I'd like to keep the kitten here for further observation. I hesitated, not wanting to part with our new furry friend. Is it really necessary? I asked hopefully. Just a precaution, he assured, understanding our attachment. All right, I agreed reluctantly, but only if you promise to take good care of Hero, the kitten. He chuckled. You've got my word. The call ended, leaving us bittersweet. Gathering the kids, we shared Dr. Lee's request to keep the kitten overnight. But why? My daughter pouted, eyes filled with concern. Just a safe measure, my husband replied, trying to sound upbeat. Doc Lee just wants to make sure everything's perfect, I added. So we'll see our little hero tomorrow, my son said, trying to be brave. We assured them all was well, hugging them tightly. We prepared a small bag of kitten essentials for its stay. Do you think it needs a blanket? My daughter asked, while holding a tiny blue one. Better safe than sorry, I nodded, adding it to the pile. My husband tossed in a few toys, chuckling, It's like getting ready for a sleepover. We tried to keep the mood light, even as we all felt the kitten's absence. At the vet's office once more, Dr. Lee greeted us warmly. The kitten's in good hands, he promised, while taking our bag. My son gave the kitten a soft pat. See you tomorrow, little buddy, he whispered. We watched as Dr. Lee carried the kitten gently through the door. Turning back to us, my husband squeezed my hand. Just one night, he reminded, and we headed back home. Dinner felt quiet without the kitten's soft mews. My daughter sighed dramatically. It's weird not having it around. Her brother nodded in agreement. To lighten the mood, my husband suggested a board game. Winner gets to pick the next name for the kitten, he declared, sparking a lively debate. As laughter filled the room, I realized our family was already better for having met that little furball. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I spent a moment gazing at the empty laundry room. The little spot we'd prepared seemed to miss its small occupant. Curling up with a book, I imagined the following day when we'd go pick up our tiny new family member. Tomorrow will be better, I murmured to myself, feeling hopeful as I drifted into a peaceful sleep. The next day arrived bright and clear, and the kids were up with the sun. Can we leave now? My son asked eagerly, bouncing near the door. Breakfast first, I laughed, serving up their favorite cereal. We all shared an air of excitement, chatting animatedly about our plans for the day. With breakfast done, we grabbed our things and headed out, ready to reunite with our tiny hero. At the vet's, we rushed inside eagerly. Dr. Lee met us with a smile, Kitten cradled in his arms. All clear, he announced, setting it gently into my daughter's waiting hands. Her face lit up. Welcome back, little one, she whispered, grinning widely. The kitten nuzzled her palm, content to be back with us. We gathered around, glad to have it home. Together, we headed back to our car, spirits high. While preparing dinner, the phone rang, pulling me away from the stove. It was Dr. Lee. We've made another discovery, he announced, and I felt my heart skip a beat. Is everything okay? I asked, trying to sound calm. He reassured me, it's nothing alarming, just something interesting I need to discuss with you all. That left me curious, wondering what more could be unveiled about this tiny kitten. At dinner, I gathered everyone's attention. Dr. Lee called, I started, noticing the kids immediately perked up. Is the kitten okay? My daughter asked, eyes wide with concern. More than okay, I smiled. He's found something interesting and wants us to come in. My husband raised an eyebrow, curious. The kids exchanged excited glances. Maybe the kitten's a secret agent, my son suggested, making us all laugh. The next day, we bundled into the car, ready to head back to Dr. Lee. The kids chatted animatedly about what the vet might reveal. Do you think it's a spy kitten? My son asked again, fueling his imagination. My husband chuckled. Or maybe it's royalty. We were all eager. even if the guesses were playful. As we parked at the vet's, anticipation bubbled over. What would we learn this time? Back in Dr. Lee's office, he greeted us warmly. Holding the kitten, he smiled. Well, I won't keep you in suspense. The kitten's unusual marks are actually birthmarks. I blinked, surprised. Birthmarks? My daughter echoed, fascinated. Dr. Lee nodded, and rather distinct ones too. Rare even. My husband leaned in. So, nothing harmful? Dr. Lee confirmed it was just a unique feature, putting all our minds at ease. As we listened, Dr. Lee explained they were like tiny symbols. They're not usual in domesticated cats, he shared, peering at the markings. My son wondered aloud. Do they mean something? Dr. Lee shrugged. Perhaps, but it's rare and fascinating. My husband joked about hidden maps or treasure as we laughed, captivated by this new piece of the puzzle that made our kitten even more special. Driving back, the kids' speculation continued. Maybe the kitten's from a secret lab, my daughter suggested, holding the kitten close. My husband laughed. Or a designer breed with special markings. I couldn't help but smile, enjoying their wild ideas. What started as a strange encounter with a mother cat had spiraled into something we never expected. One delightful mystery after another, wrapped in fur and tiny paws. As we settled back at home, I reflected on the whirlwind our lives had become. We've got quite the tale to tell, huh? I mused to my husband. He nodded, amused. From drive-by kitten drop-offs to mystery birthmarks, he laughed. Our kids were occupied, playing with the kitten on the floor, their giggles filling the house. I knew then this was an adventure we'd cherish for years to come. Later that evening, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Are you expecting someone? My husband asked, puzzled. I shook my head, heading to answer it. Standing outside was a woman with a familiar smile. I heard about your new family member, she began, curious eyes darting past me to the kids with the kitten. I invited her in, aware that our odd little adventure had piqued more interest than I realized. Over tea, our visitor introduced herself as Emily, a neighbor intrigued by our kitten saga. The kids eagerly showed the kitten's birthmarks, thrilling in the story. I've never seen anything like it, Emily remarked, clearly impressed. My husband shared the vet's insights, and an animated conversation sprang up about rare cats and unique stories. It was refreshing, sharing our strange, wonderful experience with someone so genuinely interested. After Emily left, I pondered the connections this little kitten had formed. Strangers have become friends, I remarked to my husband. He nodded, placing an arm around me. Our kitten, now exploring its new home, had sparked conversations and bonds. In a short time, our family's routine had transformed. As laughter echoed down the hall, I realized our lives had been enriched in the most unexpected but delightful way. That evening, sitting together in the living room, we talked about all that had happened. Who knew a kitten could change so much? I mused aloud. My husband nodded, picking up the little fur ball. This little one brought us a crazy adventure, he smiled. The kids chimed in, excited about whatever the next day might bring. As we sat there, I realized this marked a new chapter for all of us. The next day, my daughter rushed in holding a letter. Mom, look, it's addressed to the kitten, she exclaimed. I took it from her hands, curious. Who sends mail to a cat? I wondered, befuddled. My husband laughed, suggesting it might be an invitation to some secret cat society. The kids were thrilled at the idea, opening the letter eagerly to reveal its mysterious contents. Later, we invited Emily over for tea. She was fascinated by our letter addressed to the kitten. This keeps getting better, she said, her eyes twinkling. As we shared the letter, Emily told us about a cat club in town that loved sharing unusual stories. Maybe they've heard about the kitten's marks, she suggested. This idea intrigued us all, adding another layer to our quirky little tale. Reading the letter, we discovered it was an invite to a local pet gathering. They probably heard about our famous little kitten, my son concluded proudly. Do you think we should go? my husband asked, looking at me. The kids were already begging, eager to meet other pet lovers. Why not? It could be fun, I agreed, ready for the next curious chapter in our kitten story. The kids couldn't stop talking about the upcoming event. I bet there'll be lots of unique pets, my daughter guessed, imagining everything from dogs to bunnies. And maybe some with marks like ours, her brother added. The house was buzzing with excited chatter. I smiled, preparing snacks for the outing, delighted to see how our little kitten had become a catalyst for so much joy. Arriving at the gathering, we marveled at the colourful array of pets and people. "This is amazing!" my son exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. Emily joined us, eager to explore. The children dashed off toward a gathering of animals, and I spotted other families with pets in tow. Footsteps and laughter filled the air, creating an energetic, friendly atmosphere that promised an interesting afternoon. As we introduced our kitten to the crowd, people were fascinated by its unique birthmarks. "What an extraordinary cat!" one fellow pet owner exclaimed. The kids soaked up the attention, proudly sharing the kitten's story. People from all walks of life circled around, adding their tales to the mix. Our furry friend was the star of the day, bringing strangers together in warmth and wonder. Throughout the event, we met others who shared a love for pets. "This gathering brings people together," Emily observed, marveling at the connections forming. "And all thanks to your kitten." I nodded, introducing ourselves to Gwen, a friendly pet lover with a dog named Charlie. Children played with animals while we adults exchanged contact info, feeling our community widen with each introduction. Stories flowed freely all afternoon. Emily joined in as we listened to tales of remarkable animals. "This is just what we needed," my husband said, sharing a knowing smile with me. "It's like magic," my daughter chimed, brushing her hand through the kitten's fur. I watched our growing circle of friends, grateful for the unexpected gift this tiny creature had brought into our lives. At day's end, we made our way home, tired yet happy. "That was incredible," my son yawned, still replaying the event in his mind. My husband nodded, carrying our sleepy kitten. Emily waved goodbye, promising to visit again soon. As we settled in, I reflected on this unexpected journey. With a smile, I realized our lives were all the brighter for the little kitten brought into our world. Our kitten's story spread beyond our neighborhood. Friends started calling, curious about the little furball with special marks. "Can we see the famous kitten?" one neighbor asked, amused. The kids loved the attention. "Of course, it's like having a celebrity pet," my daughter giggled. I nodded, glad our adventure could bring so much happiness and laughter to those around us, broadening our community in unexpected ways. The next day, I got an unexpected call from a local newspaper. "We'd love to feature your kitten's story," the reporter said, excitement in her voice. I hesitated, unsure about the publicity. "Really? Our kitten in the paper?" I asked. "Absolutely. It's not every day you find a kitten with such unique marks," she replied warmly. After a short chat, I agreed, curious about what the story might bring. As the interview approached, my family rallied around the kitten, preparing it for its big moment. "Should we brush its fur?" my son asked, holding a small comb. My daughter chimed in, "And a bow for its collar?" I laughed, touched by their enthusiasm. "Let's just be ourselves," I suggested, hoping the warmth of our tale would shine through naturally in our story's retelling. When the reporter arrived, the kids eagerly showed off the kitten, their pride clear. "So, how did this adventure start?" the reporter asked, notepad ready. I recounted the day a cat left the kitten in our car. "It was just meant to be, I guess," my husband added, smiling. The reporter was captivated by our story, jotting down notes as the kitten purred in my daughter's lap. During the interview, the reporter shared stories about other unique pets she'd encountered. "I once met a parrot that could mimic any sound," she laughed, sparking our curiosity. "Maybe this kitten has hidden talents too," my son pondered aloud. The conversation flowed easily, and as the interview wrapped up, we found ourselves more excited about the unity and laughter the kitten had brought into our home. With the interview done, we anticipated the article's publication. "Our kitten's going to be famous," my daughter grinned, still basking in the excitement. "I wonder what people will think," my son mused, imagining responses. I watched them, proud of how our family had embraced the unexpected. "No matter what, it's our story, and we're lucky to have it," I said, feeling grateful for the shared experience. To celebrate the soon-to-be kitten star, we invited neighbours over for a casual party. "We're proud kitten parents now," my husband joked, making everyone laugh. Emily, with her usual cheerfulness, helped organise games. As the evening unfolded, conversation and laughter filled the air. We all enjoyed the moment, aware of the happiness this tiny creature had brought into all our lives in surprising ways. Later that night, I sat alone, reflecting. "Who knew one kitten could do so much?" I whispered, hearing the soft purring from the laundry room. My husband joined, smiling. "Life's full of surprises, and this has been one of the best." We listened to the kids' soft snores upstairs, thankful for the joy this unexpected journey had brought us, a constant reminder of life's beautiful serendipity. The next morning, my daughter curled up next to the kitten, its purring a comforting presence. "It's like it's always been here," she murmured, resting her cheek against its fur. My son joined, gently scratching the kitten's chin. "We're its family now," he declared confidently. Watching them together, I felt a burst of love for our small addition, content in the knowledge that our lives had intertwined so perfectly. As we talked about the future, my husband wondered aloud, "What adventures will we have next, thanks to our little furball?" I chuckled, realizing the story was far from over. "Who knows? With a kitten like ours, anything's possible," I replied with a wink. The kids laughed, excited at the thought of more surprises. As the kitten nestled against me, I felt ready for whatever came next. With the article published, neighbours and friends wanted to hear firsthand about our kitten's incredible story. "Tell us how it happened again," Emily requested, her eyes bright with curiosity. I laughed, recounting the cat's unexpected appearance and the mystery it brought. The kids joined in, animatedly describing the kitten's marks. The room buzzed with excitement, and I could see how our story had truly captured everyone's imagination. Soon after, a local community event invited us to share our tale. "It's a chance to tell our kitten's story on stage," my husband emphasized, encouraging us. At the event, we stood in front of a crowd, the kitten nestled safely in my daughter's arms. Seeing so many interested faces, I shared the day the mother cat surprised us. A ripple of fascination spread through the audience, making us proud. At the event, we met others who adored their pets. "That kitten's marks really are special," a woman commented, nodding toward our furry friend. My son eagerly shared stories. "It's like having a little celeb at home." We exchanged tips and laughter, forming connections with pet lovers around us. Meeting so many others like us made me feel part of a broader, joyful community. As conversations flowed, one participant shared a unique insight. "I've heard of cats with patterns like those," he mentioned, sparking interest. My daughter leaned closer, fascinated. "Really? What are they?" she asked, curious about this new hint. He shrugged apologetically. "Just rumours, but interesting ones." The exchange added another layer to our kitten's mystique, leaving us pondering what little secrets it might still hold. When the event concluded, many attendees approached us to see the kitten one last time. "Even as an adult, I've never seen anything like it," one remarked, obviously charmed. My husband responded with warmth, "It's certainly a blessing for us." The kitten purred softly, working its charm on yet another admirer. As we said goodbye, I realized just how much joy this small creature brought into people's lives, ours included. Returning home, my son asked, "Can we invite new friends over?" I nodded, pleased by his eagerness. It wasn't just the kitten's story everyone was drawn to, but the connections it helped forge. Emily and Gwen, along with a few other families, joined us for the evening. The house hummed with chatter and laughter, and it was clear how our lives had broadened with fresh friendships and joy. Over dinner with our friends, Gwen mentioned, "This kitten really brings people together." I agreed, watching as the kids played joyously. Emily added, "It's like a bridge that connects us all." As the night continued, tales were shared, laughter echoed, and I basked in the warmth of this newfound community. Who would have guessed a simple act from a desperate cat would lead to all this unity and kindness? When our guests finally left, the kids sighed happily. "We've got the best stories now," my daughter declared, hugging the kitten. My husband nodded. "Yes, and the best friends too." The kitten nestled comfortably, its purr a contented melody. Reflecting on the day, I felt a wave of gratitude, not only for the adventure, but for the sense of togetherness it brought. It was a reminder of life's simple, heartfelt blessings. As we tidied up, my son pondered aloud, "Do you think more adventures are waiting?" I smiled, feeling hopeful. "With our curious kitten? I bet there are," I replied. My husband added, "And with a community behind us, we can face anything." His words resonated, a promise of support and shared joy. Our home, filled with possibilities, stood ready for whatever lay ahead, a testament to the journey so far. The end of the day found us cozy on the couch, Kitten purring between us. "What's next, you think?" my daughter asked, yawning. I shrugged with a grin. "We'll see, but I know we'll face it together." The words felt right, echoing in the gentle quiet of our warm home. As we settled in for the night, every heart in our family was full and expectant, ready for the adventures to come.